The GA Hour with Colm Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
And when I started running, I suppose I didn't stop, and when I got the chance to go, I said I should go, and so I opened up.
We were only the small little fish out there, so we are, and we're trying hard to make it through. But it's hard to get the breaks when you're the smaller fish.
Because I love this county so much, and it's just, I'm delighted that the lads did it for the people of Waterford today, because I'm heartbroken.
Welcome along to the Hurling show. It's myself and Brian here on the line today, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do a podcast today, and then I sat down and I watched the club hurling and I went, why the hell wouldn't we, Brian, do a podcast today? It's All Ireland Club semi-finals. Like, what was I even thinking last Thursday?
Yeah, well, you have to keep the hurling going. That's most important. But no, you have to give the boys their credit. It's a huge day in the calendar for so many clubs, and especially the not just looking at the senior clubs, but the junior and intermediate All Ireland as well. Like, these are massive days for any clubs, and really it's what hurling and football, I suppose, is all about. It's the real nutshell for any GAA fan out there. When you hear and listen back to any of the big county hurlers or footballers when they've won loads of things with their clubs, Kilkenny hurlers come to mind, some of the Dublin footballers, they always talk about anything they ever won with their club. It seems to just hits home. It's real true to the heart stuff. And I know we went on a fantastic run back in 2012, and look, we didn't win the All-Ireland, but we were damn close. But we still remember those days so fondly. Yeah,
you definitely would. And it's almost like club football and hurling, the preparation now is almost like it was at intercounty when I kind of started. So like, it still has that purity, and it's still maybe 2 days a week. You'll do your weights programme, and there's no media bans, and there'll be no huge drink bans, and it just seems like it's at that level of football or hurling that I fell in love with, the commitment levels involved, where you take it absolutely serious and it's still your life. It's just not dominating your whole life like maybe the intercounty season does.
Yeah, I think it's more a common sense approach. My biggest issue was intercounty at the moment, and it's one of the main reasons there's no way I could go back. But for a training session at 7:30, you have to be there at 6:30 between physio and foam rolling and extra practice that's expected of you, and same afterwards, and meetings upon meetings, and analysis and all the data that's involved in it. And it's just, I don't know if you're becoming any better a hurler or a footballer as a result. You're obviously becoming a better athlete, but at times it can drain you. Whereas the club, it's, as you said, okay, it's absolutely everything here. It still dominates your thoughts and all that, but you are able to balance your life that just a little bit better, and it doesn't seem to be as hard on the mind as intercounty.
Yeah, no, exactly. So Ballyhale and Ballygunner, it wasn't a classic by any means. It wasn't really a great game. It was a very good performance by Ballyhale in the second half. So they've won every semi-final they've been in, except for Portumna beat them in that classic with the 5 goals back in 2010. So they're going for their 7th title. They're the market leaders really in club hurling, and they're back with a new team. And like, these lads don't look half bad, some of these young fellas.
And that's the scary thing with them. You have to say fair play to them. Okay, they've won the last 2 under-21 county titles in Kilkenny, so they're not picking them up off the side of the street and bringing them along for the match. You look at their down the centre, their main players: Joey Holden, Michael Fennelly, TJ obviously, and Colm Fennelly, and you think, look, they're household names. We all know about them, but it's their youngsters. It's in those cornerback and corner forward and wing forward positions that they're really stepping up to the plate. They have some record from Ballyhale for such a small area.
Yeah.
And to think what they've done consistently over the last 30 or 40 years. Close to me at home, obviously, Burrell was the team of the 90s and early 90s, and they were phenomenal, and they got 4 All-Irelands out of it. But Ballyhale in particular has gone through 3 or 4 of these teams. That's the thing that's huge for such a small rural area.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you even have Thomas's now, who survived a scare against Cushendall. They've 7 survivors from 2013. It's 6 years ago, and they're a tiny little area as well. I think I was reading quotes from David Burke, who's coming up on the show a little bit in a little while. There's only 200 houses in the area, so it's incredible. And like, you'll know in Coolderry, and I wouldn't know if coming from Portlaoise, which is very hard to get that community spirit kind of going, that, like, I mean, it means so much, that kind of community spirit in it together and against the odds, because we see upsets in club hurling and football, whereas we don't necessarily see it as much at intercounty level.
Yeah, and I think that's the real joy of it. And we've seen it with Mullinack obviously earlier in the Leinster final, beating Kilmacud, and that's what makes it fantastic. St Thomas's great club. We actually played them almost to a year. We played them in Athlone 19, a practice match, and we drew. They were missing their couple of county players, so it just shows how far they've come in the year, and they're in All Ireland final now. And I suppose we were in very close to getting to a Leinster final, so it just shows it's a year-round thing. But St Thomas have a great history there as well. They haven't always been up at senior, but they've got a group of players there now. They talk about this under 12B championship that they won, and it's amazing they can always point. That's the mainstay of their team, and David Burke obviously and Conor Cooney. They're again the main men, but it's actually the men around them that are making sure that that's how you get to this top level. They're not weak in any position. So again, the club is king here. It's such a great competition. Very rarely you see a one-sided affair, and I think we especially saw that in junior and intermediate All Ireland.
Yeah, definitely. Two talking points out of the Ballyhale-Ballygunner match. So it was nip and tuck for a long time. And I thought there should have been a penalty for Ballygunner. I'm not sure if there was much talk about it or what you thought, but their corner forward got a flick on it and he was completely taken out of it. Do you remember that down in the second half? And then Ballyhale came up 5 minutes later, got the goal, and then that was kind of game over then. What did you think of that penalty incident? Kind of like almost like soccer, where you knock the ball ahead of the goalie and then he takes you out. Do you know, it was almost a bit like that, where he'd gotten the flick ahead of him and then got taken out a bit after. I don't know if that's a penalty in soccer, but you get a penalty fairly easily.
Yeah, we're unlucky as well because it looked like the ball got stuck in the mud. You were convinced the ball was going to go into the back of the net, and next time it got stuck in the mud, came back across, and you're dead right. He was taken out, but he got to the ball first. But I suppose the referee just kind of looked at it that they both went to the ball, and it was a fair challenge because they both just arrived at the one time, but he definitely got to the ball first. But you very rarely see them given, being honest, Colm. I agree with you, letter of the law, it technically is a penalty, but I think it's very rare you've seen them given. But they probably felt a little bit aggrieved from that perspective, yeah. Yeah,
and in fairness, they were beaten so well in the second half, they wouldn't feel right complaining about that, that penalty incident. Did you see
3 points from play now?
Terrible,
just not good enough either. An All-Ireland semi-final, they will be hugely disappointed with that return.
Yeah, no, definitely. Did you see the TJ Reid kick pass across to Evan Shefflin for a point? It was on 16 minutes. It was a thing of absolute beauty, bringing the big ball into the small ball game. Let's see more of this.
Hey, I did it myself one day, Nolan Park, and put in the back of the net against Kilkenny. So,
lovely.
When you've no choice, you just do whatever it takes. But I tell you what, it's a lesson for anyone that's out there, and it's not about the bit of skill that he did. It's a lesson in just play what's in front of you, because he'd no hurl. Instead of turning around and whinging to the referee, he just got on with it, and he saw there was still an overlap there, and kicked out the ball out to the wing and just did whatever it took, whether it was a hand pass or a kick pass, whatever it took, because it just shows the attitude. I'm not eulogizing about TJ here, but the attitudes of all top players. The referee's nearly in their way, because if he's blowing the whistle, he's holding them up. There's no whinging to the referee. And look, we've all been there, Willie. You know yourself, the day you're on fire, the day you're really tuned in, the referee is inconsequential. But the day you're a little bit off your game, you'll be there and you'll be whinging to the referee, looking for the freeze and on all those sort of things. But it just shows the attitude was spot on there.
Here, I'm just on that. So say you're running along with the ball and you're panicked. You can feel a lad right behind you and you're going to get hooked. Would it make more sense to kick pass a few more passes like that, or
I am forever saying it to our midfielders and half forwards. When you're under pressure, will you just kick it forward? Because it's actually a great ball to get, because of the trajectory that it comes at.
Right.
And it generally will come. If you get out to it, it'll come between your waist and your head, which is where you kind of want the ball, or else it might even bounce once in front of you. So it can actually end up being a great ball forward if lads actually use it a little bit more. obviously the problem is that if you mightn't be too skillful. We're concentrating more on our wrists, so they mightn't be actually getting the great ball in if they miscue it. But it can actually work, especially when you're under pressure, as you just said.
Yeah, exactly. And there wouldn't be too much pace on it, so it would be really easy to catch. It would be more of a hanging one. Well, though we saw Aaron Gallan trying to kick Slitter, so maybe this isn't as easy as TJ has made. We saw him at the top level in Croke Park trying to do it. So I think he tried to bend one off the inside of his boot into the top corner.
Yeah, I don't know what he was trying that day. Yeah.
Classic. Stephen O'Keefe, right? So the Ballyhale scored a goal and Stephen O'Keefe did the contact lenses kind of trick. I'm not too sure. We all know the different tricks that teams do to go down, and when a team gets a goal or gets 1-1 and gets a bit of momentum on you, you're supposed to break it. I'm not sure at the time Stephen did it made much sense, because it's nearly Ballygunner want to get the ball back down the goal and start maybe, attacking Ballyhale, but he did the contact lenses trick to slow things down.
Yeah, the day of going down with a cramp or an injury is gone, so the referee won't allow that. He'll just say play on. The one thing he can't do anything about it is the goalie. And I've seen this trick come in time and time over the last few years, and Stephen went down probably trying to slow it down. It was definitely premeditated. To score the goal in the second half, he'd slow it down and try and regroup. But as I said to you off air, we got caught in this one by Cheddar. He's not here to defend himself now at the moment, but Cheddar pulled the right one against us in Championship. Laois against Offaly back a few years ago. Laois were coming strong. They were really knocking on the door, finally beating us during my time as an Offaly hurler. And we got to run them in the first half, even though they were playing a sweeper. Went a few points ahead. Next minute, Owen O'Reilly goes down with his famous contact lens trick, and down he goes. Referee, I'm roaring at the ref, can you not see? It's as obvious as daylight, but no. So in fairness to them, the whole Laois backline midfield went into a huddle, the forwards went into a huddle. This was all pre-planned. Whatever instructions Cheddar needs to get on, he got on the reset, and by half time they took control of the game and they'd set themselves up for their second half. So look, whatever it takes sometimes, but I don't know what the GA or the referee can do to stop it either, because if the goalie goes down, there's no one to pick out the ball. I don't know, unless he throws it in, but it's just dangerous ground.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I didn't really think about that. The game can't restart, although it may be a full back. Back in the day when you have a terrible goalie in the goals, the full back might come in, and I've definitely seen that go on. But I don't know if the goalie is lying down, but I must ask Cheddar about that, the wily old fox.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He knows like that, don't worry.
Right, so Galway's Oranmore Marie, right? So Oranmore Marie, Damien Hayes told me last Thursday that they're only called Oranmore, that no one in Galway calls them Oranmore Marie. And a good few people have tweeted me to tell me that loads of people call them Oranmore Marie, so maybe no one in Portumna calls them Oranmore Marie, might be closer to it. They were 7 points down in the first half, came back first ever Galway team to win an intermediate, which I thought was a surprise statistic from that. But there was one coming out of that. We'll talk about Niall Burke in performance of the weekend, and Fitzgibbon as well. But the indiscipline from Charleville, which is very unusual for an All-Ireland final. So they had Jack Doyle and Cathal Carroll sent off during the second half for off-the-ball incidents. Now these look to be strikes, and there were red cards. And I just thinking to myself, it's an All-Ireland final. Like, you get away with strikes like that in a challenge match on a Sunday morning. Do you know, that kind of way? But it's just so unusual to be striking a fella off the ball in an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you follow the Buffy again?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
I do. So I actually, in fairness to him, you have to give him a credit to this one. I watched both games through the Buff's eyes yesterday, and he catches the second sending off on it, actually.
Right.
So it seemed that the cornerback and corner forward, they went in over a ball, and there was a free given, and the corner forward pulls a little bit out of the cornerback, and the cornerback just kind of jabs back at him. Not, he hits him. I mean, he knows he's hitting him, but he doesn't leather him or anything. Corner forward goes down in a hip, and it's a sending off. Little bit harsh, being honest. I've seen a lot worse go on hurling fields. I know, letter of the law, you can say he jabbed him with the hurl into the stomach and all that, but being honest, I thought it was a little harsh. A yellow card probably would have sufficed there, being honest. I think it's getting a little bit too soft at this stage. If you start going letter of the law in hurling, sure, we're going to end up in 7 and 8 side. That's the truth.
How are these fellas viewed then? Because that does shine another light on it. This is a bit of gamesmanship. I'll clip you, you don't do anything, you clip me back, and then I go down. Like, I mean, it's gamesmanship and it's setting lad up for a red card. How are these fellas that are into these tricks viewed within the hurling? Because hurling is still a really, really manly game. Like, are there fellas, like, I'm sure if you do this once, like, it might work in the match, but you'd be viewed in a very bad light. We know hurling is a small enough community.
100%, and I have no respect for anyone that does that. And I nearly got caught on it myself this year in a club game, and in fairness to Brian Gavin, strong referee, and he realised, there was, as I said, I'm a forward. I don't go around hitting anybody. You know what I mean? And I've no respect for players like that. And that's the truth. I don't count them. I don't count that as manly whatsoever. I've no problem taking a belt. I've taken plenty of them, and tough hurling, no problem. Give it to me hard. That's no problem at all. And we'll shake hands afterwards. It's all part of the game. But this simulation or lying down and trying to get lads sent off, that drives me crazy altogether, being honest.
Yeah. Would there be lads known for the inter-county level? You don't need to you don't have to name them if you don't want to. But would there be fellas known for that they might give you a clip, hope, and you give it back and they go down?
It's not as prevalent in inter-county, being honest.
Right.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. No, being honest, it's a little bit more in club level, but it's not. Look, it's not a huge issue or anything. It's not like, but there is always going to be one or two that want to do it. And look, you'll get some people justifying it. Look, whatever it takes to get over the line, it's worth it. It's not worth it. Being honest, I'd rather have integrity.
That's it. Okay, right. So Dunnamaggin, they were 1-66 favourites to beat Castleblaney. It was the first ever Monaghan hurling club to ever play in Croke Park. And geez, this nearly turned out to be a fairy tale story. Castleblaney stayed with them the whole way. Dunnamaggin scored 7 unanswered scores at the end, but Castleblaney can absolutely hold their heads up high. 1-66. Noel Hickey lifted the cup, so while you'd be heartbroken for Castleblaney, seeing Noel Hickey at the very end of his career lifting a cup, it's not like he hasn't enough bloody won, but at the same time, it's nice to see him win that to kind of round off like a brilliant career.
And Noel Hickey's he's obviously fantastic hurler, raw as they come at fullback. He will take you and eat you without salt. And I had a great trip with Noel back a few years ago in Rome in 2003 on a Railway Cup trip, and we played Connacht over there, and great old trip. And Noel, he's a great character, so he enjoyed the red wine that night. It was flowing fairly freely, and actually, great story from that. We were trying to get home from Rome and no taxis to be got whatsoever. And, there's a scatter of inter-county hurlers, so that obviously means nothing over in Rome or anywhere, actually, for that matter. But we're trying to get home. No way could we get a taxi. So we actually stopped. We stopped a little Cinquecento coming along, and there was a woman, maybe in her elderly, maybe in her 50s or 60s, and myself and Noel pleaded with her, showed her the car to where we wanted to go in with to get, and she dropped us off to the hotel. So great old story, but that's gone off in one. But Noel Hickey, great hurler, delighted for him. Dunnamaggin are a proud club as well. They've been, they've gone down through the ranks, and I suppose they've been trying to get back up to senior hurling. It's hard to believe that that they were one of the stalwarts of Kilkenny senior hurling there for a long time. So they're on their long road back. But Castleblaney, you've mentioned them, brilliant effort. Disappointing to see, from reading about it, that they went to a sweeper when they thought they were in control, and it backfired.
Right, okay, because they were 3 points up. They came back from 3 points down. Dunnamaggin had to. So, that would definitely be a mistake if that's what they did. But again, just a huge day for any of those clubs in Croke Park yesterday. I want to finish up on the top of the show before we get to David Burke asking you about controversy in Offaly. I have this down under the headline. So, former Tipperary goalkeeper and manager Ken Hogan has taken charge of St. Rynagh's, having previously had spells in charge of Coolderry and Burr. Coolderry reached the 2012 All-Ireland Club final under his guidance, only to lose to Lochgale Shamrocks. This is huge controversy. Ken Hogan has gone over to the dark side to Rynagh's after being a hero in the Coolderry club.
Thanks for that, Willie. Appreciate you bringing this live on air. Ken's held in huge regard in Coolderry, obviously. He actually he was still hurling with Tipperary when he was in charge of Burr back in '91, and Burr got to a Club All Ireland loss to Kilcormac, the start of the journey for that great Burr team. And then, took over us in 2009, halfway through 2009 season, and we won county finals 10-11, won our first ever Leinster, and got to All Ireland. And look, unfortunately, it didn't work for us that day. But he's held in huge regard here in Coollerry. But he's been gone for us now for a couple of years, and he sees something in Rhinus. Rhinus have won one county title out of, I think it was 4 county final appearances. So they've been knocking on the door. Probably should have won more than they actually got. Franny Ford, actually the coach for Galway, hugely involved with them for a number of years. He got them to the promised land that time. So Ken, probably a little bit, from a personal point of view, a little bit disappointed. The account Ken is such a huge part of my Coollerry career. But I won't even say I'm going to wish him luck, because I sincerely don't wish him luck. And we're coming up against him later in the championship.
Yeah, it'll definitely a strange one for everyone, I'd say, suppose, looking across the sideline at someone that you've shared so many good days with, being with a rival now. Like, I mean, it's definitely a weird one. And what was he working at before Rhinus? Does he do the rounds, like keep himself busy with clubs?
He was in Burson Osprey, Kilcotton, and actually won a county final with them as well, first ever. So Ken knows what he's at. Very, very astute hurling man. I think he was involved at Maynooth University as well. So, he knows he's hurling. Very genuine, honest guy. And, in fairness, one thing he'll bring great enthusiasm and great confidence. And, I loved hurling under him, I have to say.
All right, very good. So more managerial news is Danny Owens has stepped down, is he, as Kilcormac?
No, he's gone back to Kilcormac.
Oh, he's gone back with them, that was it. So he was before, and he's gone back. So it was 4 years he was out, that's it. So he's back in with them again. So, like, I mean,
yes.
The Offaly club hurling is definitely heating up when you have yourselves defending champions, Ken Hogan gone to Rhinus, and now you have Danny Owens, who's had a successful term with Kilcormac Calahi the last time. So, like, I mean, it's not going to be easy to retain that one.
No, it certainly won't. And Danny Owens, gone back in there. He actually won a county championship with Camrus in Laois last year. So, again, another guy with huge experience. A contentious issue putting him back in there in Kilcormac Calahi, as everybody knows. Some people were for coming back, some weren't. The same with sometimes managers. You wonder, is it a good idea or not going back into somewhere that they were so used to. But he's back there now. He brought them great success. They won 3 in a row county championships, their first time ever winning one, and they went on to win 3 in a row and got to All Ireland as well, and were beaten by St Thomas's in 2013. So, he knows what it takes to win too. And Kilcormac Calahi obviously are going nowhere. So.
Why would people in the club not want him back as a matter of interest if they won 3 in a row and got to a Club All Ireland? Or is that just the same politics happens in every club?
Same politics as in every club, you know yourself. So look, there's I think that's the same up and down the country, you know yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Listen, we'll keep our eyes out on the Offaly Championship next year with all these managerial moving around. Right. We'll talk to David Burke next. All right, St Thomas has booked a place in the All-Ireland final on Saturday after battling past Cushendall, and David Burke joins us on the line now. It was kind of squeaky bum time towards the end of that one, David.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, I suppose everyone was probably saying it. We were definitely thinking on the field as well, and I suppose there could have been a draw on it in extra time. Might have been maybe the fairest thing that would have happened at the end, but we did well to work the score, and David Sheridan might to put that ball over the bar at the end. I mean, we were all delighted anyway, and we just hung on then at the end.
So how out of character was that for David Sherry, or does he fancy himself as a bit of a forward at times?
Oh no, he'd be a very versatile player. Like, he would have played in probably most positions, playing underage and that up along, and probably goes in as our sweeper when teams set up a sweeper sometimes against us. So he's done that against Clarenbridge in the quarter final, and Sarsfield in the semi-final this year already, where he's went up the field and got points. So it wasn't anything new to us, but it's probably, for everyone seeing number 4 going up the field and the point might have been a bit out of the ordinary, but we were well used to seeing him going up the field and scoring. Okay,
because I was described, I saw it on the highlights, I was described as a Donal O'Donovan point, that like a cornerback who's never, it'd be nosebleed territory, but David is obviously, well, he struck it like it was a fella who knew what he was doing anyways.
No, I did. I'd say once it left the hurler, it was going straight over, like, because there was a good few of us behind him at that side of the field. So you can see, I think there's a great picture there. There was Cushendall player and David Sherry and Conor Cooney, and you can see the joy on the two lads' faces, and then the Cushendall lad is like, can't believe it's gone over, that kind of thing. So it was a good moment in the game, I suppose. It was still maybe 3 or 4 minutes left in the game as well, so we had to obviously do a good bit of defending after that and hold out.
So Cushendall played the sweeper, and it's obviously, like you said, a system that you've come up before. So David plays your sweeper, and I always think, and it's a problem with sweepers at intercounty level as well, they always just cover the full back line. They never make a nuisance of themselves. Do you know what I mean? Instead of just saying, it's always a defensive role that they get. But I think your manager, Kevin Lally, pushed David up towards the end of the game, and he started causing problems then.
Yeah, I think he brought on Sean Scale in the backs and took off a back and pushed up David Sherry. Then you see then as another forward, so it kind of just meant we went kind of man for man nearly. But I maybe thinking during the game when Cushendall were coming at the end, I thought they might push their sweeper up and maybe went for the. Not that they were going for it, it's just that if they had done it maybe before we did, that they might have got more. So might have got a score out of it, but yeah, I think it's something. I think to be honest, the only reason why we might have got over the game was the respect that we actually had shown them coming into the game. I think so we knew that they're a really good team. We'd worked on and probably knew they'd play a sweeper, and it wasn't a big shock to us when they did actually come, because we knew they were going to come in the second half, and we were kind of ready for it and kind of weathered the storm a bit. And I think Dara and James Regan got 2 good scores half through the second half, or maybe 10 minutes to go, to kind of settle us back down again. And I think obviously the turning point in the second half was them getting the goal. But it was just a strange game. Every game takes on a life of its own, and it's one of them games where everything was kind of going for them in the second half, for us in the first half, and we just hung out.
And did you think at half time you were in a good position? Like 13 points is a good score. I know there was a win there, but you probably thought at half time, look, you would have taken that maybe before the game with the strong wind. It was a 7-point lead.
Yeah, you probably would have. Yeah, I was going in thinking Holly conceded the goal from the penalty. Maybe, it was just that little thing. I thought if we hadn't conceded that and gone in maybe 10 points up, it might have been more of a cushion. Do you know what I mean? And there was probably maybe that much of a lead, maybe 8-9 point lead that you probably needed with the wind. Now, having said that, I thought we defended fairly well for most of it. I think my man actually got in for the goal. He probably got the best of me now, in fairness, over the hour, and he got inside. They'd won a ball and he kind of made a run. He went one side of the ruck and I went inside, and he got on to the end of it and ran through and stuck in the net. That obviously was a massive score for him, brought him back into the game then, you see. So I think they got rattled off 3 points of a shot then very quickly to draw level, and then we got 2 more after that. So it was a bit of a humdinger then towards the finish. But no, it was just, I think the best thing that we showed is probably our character, and we showed that probably all year, because we had played a game in the quarter final against Carebridge in the Gala Championship, and we'd gone to extra time with them when Kenneth Burke got the left that day. So we kind of were in a game like that before, and we were well used to it, and I think that character kind of helped us get over the line in the last day.
Right. And does that break you get? Like, you've no provincial championship. Like, so when you win, you'll say you're fresher, but if you lose, you'll say, like, the Ballyea game, you didn't show up for a lot of that game. And that the analysis after that game will say, St. Thomas's, weren't match ready. And then if you win, they'll say, "Oh, well, you were fresh." Like, how do you do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage?
I think it's just a lot of talk. I think it's just how the club themselves manages it between their game prior to Christmas and then coming into after. I think that's a massive time frame, and how much training you do and how to get it right and how many matches you play. Because even if you play challenge games, you can't beat playing championship game like in our county finals the 18th of November, whereas in 2016, coming into the Ballyea game, it was even the end of October. Like, it was before the midterm break in October. So we'd a whole month in November off, and we actually went back training in December and trained all December that time. And we probably needed to be trained because we had a month off already, whereas now we had December off this year because the county final was late November, and we went back training, and we're probably that bit fresher and more of a mental freshness than anything really, because you just probably want a break from it. Like, lads are still looking after themselves fairly well. They know that there's a big game coming up. They're not going to be obviously going on the view of the Christmas too much, and they're eating properly, all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's just about managing that time frame between. Obviously, we have maybe that bit more flexibility, but if you do play right up to Christmas and you stay training, you have the advantage of, maybe 6-7 weeks ago you had that championship game and you might be still ready to go. I'd say it probably affects them teams more after they finish the All-Ireland series, if they keep going the following year maybe, because they might find it very hard to prolong that into the following championship again. So sometimes it mightn't affect that team where they played late into December until they've finished the All-Ireland series and they go back into their club championship again in their respective county. So I think it's about managing it, and there's no right way and there's no wrong way. I think you just have to say what way the squad is at the moment and feel how it is, and I think that just comes down to the management and the plans they put in place. And it is hard to get right. There is a winner and a loser, so you'll obviously be going back over every little detail you've done. Did we do that right if you lost, or did we do this? You know what I mean? So it is, I suppose, you scrutinise it a lot more when you lose.
So TJ Ryan, former Limerick manager, is in with you this year. He's part of Kevin Lally, who's your manager of the backroom team since last August. What kind of an input has he, or is he there every now and then, or is he there on a...
He's there, good bit, yeah. He's like Kevin, I suppose, came in the start of the year last year, and he had 2 selectors with Claude Gahagan and Kenna Larkin there. Obviously Claude was there before with my father, so there's a bit of a changeover, and Kenna Larkin then was a new selector in. So I suppose they kind of approached TJ early on in the year, and he couldn't really maybe commit early on, when obviously the club championship was still at the early stages, and in Galway we've 5 group games, so we played the 2 in April and then there was a break, and he kind of came in then towards the end of the summer and was doing a session a week and that kind of stuff. And then as the knockout stages became more prevalent in Galway, he was there kind of more sessions, and obviously he's been there now since we're training again back at the start of Christmas or before Christmas and that. So he's been there and his input is good. I suppose probably the hardest thing was just himself and Kevin making sure that I suppose their views are right, and I think they've done brilliantly, and they're kind of mixing well, and TJ is very good when in a group setting, so he's got on very well with our players, and it's going well.
Yeah, because that's a big decision for manager Kevin Lally to make, to bring in a big inter-county name like TJ. And it's just in my head that TJ, he'd be a very good motivator, maybe a very good players man. That was the impression I kind of got of him when he was at Limerick.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's all for the players, and he's brilliant at, I suppose, managing as well, and himself and Kevin work well together all the time. So they're always in and out of different drills and stuff like that. So they've kind of have it. I suppose they have a good match. I suppose a good setup, which is sometimes it just happens without you even knowing as well. So that's like they wouldn't have known each other probably prior to that, and got to know each other. And as I said, I suppose Kevin's probably looking after a lot of other things, where TJ kind of, he has a bit of crack with the lads now and again training, but he knows when, I suppose, he has that experience from being in Limerick. He knows when probably the tough things have to be said, he's able to say them, and get players up for it as well. So there's a good mix to be fair to the 2 guys, alright.
I was reading that there's 7 survivors from the starting team that won in 2013, and then I'm reading that like the St. Thomas's, there's only about 200 houses in the area. So that's a lot to lose from your All-Ireland team and be back in another All-Ireland for such a small kind of area.
Yeah, I suppose if you take any of the other teams, I suppose that Portumna team that won the 4 days, I suppose the main group of players that they had and brought in probably maybe the likes of Conor here, Martin Dolphin, after kind of first 1 or 2 that they won. And I suppose, yeah, we're looking at it there, kind of just saying that from that team we had massive experience that time, and a lot of youth obviously, which some of the older lads now, like I was 23 that time, and even with younger lads that time that were 16, 17, maybe 18 on the panel, and we're just kind of breaking on to the likes of Aina and Shane Cooney, Brendan Farrell, David Sherry, around that age group. And I suppose they were a part of all of that, but probably weren't playing. And when the older lads, I suppose we took a lot of learning from playing with the likes of Rob Murray, Richie Murray, and the Tanny and Kenneth. They were kind of their older group, and them lads kind of stepped up then, I suppose. And to be fair to them, they've improved massively over the last couple of years, and are very good players. And even the likes of Keane Manny, cornerback now, he's only 19 years of age, and seen Dane McGinn come in the last day at 19 as well and got a point. So we have kind of that. There is a lad you need to get in every year, I suppose, freshen things up. And even since we won the last county final, we've added in 1 or 2 as well. And I suppose there's a good panel of players there now at the moment, and they're a good age, and they're all fighting to get on the team obviously now for Friday's Day. So we're looking forward to trying now, I suppose, over the next few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. You're down one brother from 2013. Sean's not there. I couldn't find him anywhere. He's living in London, was I reading?
He's living in London, yeah, but he just be involved there at the matches and stuff. He just be doing the stats. So when he comes home there, he was in the stand there or whatever, helping out the lads. There's one or two lads there, kind of Claude and stuff, that do a bit of stuff like that for us. So it's hard. We can't go paying these lads to come in and do stats. We have to get guys. Once you get lads within your own club that can do that kind of stuff, it's great, because you kind of have your own kind of team or built around you and do them little small things, I suppose, that probably the manager probably wants to get information off. So he's kind of part of that and does a bit of that work. But,
yeah, and he's no interest in coming home and playing. It's just coming home and doing the stats. Maybe doesn't train over in London or doesn't want to train.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I suppose there was a lad on from there, that one of the lads that must be taking over the junior B team this year, was asking would he come home and play a few matches now over the next somewhere or that, but he's no interest in that at the moment. So I'm sure
there's plenty of slagging in the Burke household that Sean's the stats man now, while the rest of you five boys.
Yeah, exactly.
But I wanted to talk to you about the five brothers on it in 2013, because that's very unique. Like, I mean, I've never heard of that many. Like, you know, to win an All-Ireland with that many brothers. And I remember actually just from that time, did RTE go down to your house the morning after the final and you were being interviewed in the kitchen and all? Do you remember that? Was that, have I got that right?
Yeah, I try and vaguely remember that now, right, that time. And you were trying to take it all in, and even comparing the couple of semi-finals there, like you're just trying to, I suppose, enjoy the moment after the game or whatever with the fans, you know, they come out in the field or whatever, and just, you know, shake their hands, I suppose, and just a few photographs of you, young kids and that stuff. So you're kind of taking that in, and that time, I suppose, we were all kind of young. It just happened to have a shot, and it was so massive for our club. Like, it was huge, and obviously with all the different sets of families that was in it, the Coonies, the Murrays, the Kelly Scales, all them, like there was always a brother or cousin there on the squad. And when you win like that with a group of lads that you probably start school with at 4 years of age, it's massive, and it's special, and you always have the memories all the time. So they're definitely special things, right?
Yeah. So you've got five brothers and yourself. Yes. So there's the six brothers are on the team, and you've only one sister. So I hope she's interested in hurling or plays camogie, or she's listening to an awful lot of conversations.
Camogie, right? Yeah, she does. She was on the Gala panel for a while, and she played in Ireland. I don't think she won one with the senior team, but she might have lost two. She played Conifors there before, and she's a daughter there now, Kayla, and they're married, and she's 9 years of age now. They won the under-10 championship there last year, and they're the manager. So the cycle is starting again now, and she's mad into that as well. So obviously she's the PRO for the club as well, and she's hugely involved with that kind of stuff. And I suppose especially, and sure, the father as well, he was involved with one more yesterday. Sure, they won the intermediate up in Croke Park, so
very good.
He's a big day out yesterday as well.
The Galway factory just keeps continuing, and that's it.
Yeah. Hopefully you can keep going on for another while.
Come here, just quickly on Galway. Like, I mean, you're not in with them, I presume, because you're with the club. Most county managers just leave the lads go on and finish up and then get back in.
But there's still be a bit of a connection. Like, we try and do an odds if lads are kind of doing their gym sessions there. We'd meet up with a few lads and try and get in with them, and just kind of keep more bit of a communication, keep that barrier open, and obviously the field sessions and the training they're doing, we wouldn't be past that because we're probably training ourselves tonight. So we haven't really been there. No.
Yeah, but double. Once or twice. I suppose when you're captain, you feel a bit of a responsibility to show up to things that you might not have
just kind of chatting lads, and even just going to that match or that. And I suppose we'll have plenty of preparation work ourselves now over the next few weeks, but we'll keep an eye on how they're getting on anyway, I suppose. And look, there's good group of players there at the moment again, and there's younger lads brought in and stuff. So hopefully there'll be more lads pushed in place, and that's all we kind of want to keep kind of creating that environment is building up all the time, and that, you know, we can, I suppose, keep competing and make sure we're there at the top if we can all the time.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to you too much about Galway, but just one question, because last year you kind of seemed to peak during the Leinster League part and you were blowing teams away, and then when it got to the Leinster final and further on, teams were getting a lot closer to you. So, like, I mean, is that something you talk about, how you judged your year from a physical point of view?
Yeah, I suppose there was massive learnings for everyone, and definitely apart from the physical side of things and all the strength and conditioning coaches and physical trainers would have took a huge learning probably from last year, and you can probably see how that's adapted already in team selections in the league and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they're probably getting more time into some lads' legs and resting other players and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe it was a factor last year, more of a mental thing maybe as the year went on more than anything. I think physically we were very good. Like if you take the All-Ireland final, for instance, like we finished very strong physically wise in the game.
True.
Maybe mentally we weren't at the pitch of it early in the game, and that's why Limerick probably blew us away. So I think I suppose Clare coming, they're huge and a good team as well, physical team, and they were probably getting better as the year went on as well. So like I don't know, did we kind of drop back? I think other teams probably caught up to us a bit as well, and maybe they're there now, and I think the championship going into this year is going to be very interesting. I think like there's a lot of teams there that are already capable of going on, so it's everyone is getting better every year. I think there's no team that's going away really when you look at it, so it's going to be an interesting championship, I suppose, really.
Yeah, it definitely is, but you've loads of work to do before that, so you can worry about that when it comes around.
Exactly,
Listen, come here, David, thanks very much for taking the call. I
Yeah,
appreciate
cheers.
it. Best of luck in the final.
Not at all. Thanks a minute. Okay.
Okay, so Paddy Power performance of the weekend. The first one I have down here is Niall Burke. 111, 1 penalty, 6 frees, 165. So he got 4 from play. Lined out as a wing forward. Now, whether he played wing forward or not is another story. But Niall Burke is a player I really like. He's a big, imposing fella who can score. Damien thinks he should be on the goal with him. What's your thoughts on him, Brian?
Yeah, probably lacks a little bit of consistency, but you know, when Damien says that, and I heard him mention a couple of other young players forwards to be watching out for, but who does he start instead of? Because
that's the question.
When he does start, Conor Cooney doesn't play. So then you say Conor Cooney has to be playing. So Joe Canning will definitely be playing. Donny Glynn starting because he offers something different. Conor Whelan's arguably one of the best corner forwards in the game. So it gets in. Colm Mannion can shoot the lights out day in, day out. Jason Flynn can't make the team anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the guys, these are household names, so 7 or 8 into 6 doesn't go. So it's great in saying all that they should be starting. But, again, to be fair to Micheál Donoghue, he has to pick guys that are on form. And that's the nature of the course. And I think that's the nature of any strong team. I think Galway probably have more issues in their back line and the lack of options they have back there. It was all going well when they had consistency and everyone was hurling well and everyone was fit, but they saw they ran into troubles when especially with the prolonged season last year.
That was it. So maybe moving Cathal Mannion into midfield might give Burke a spot in the forwards and might put Johnny Cohen in there, as that extra defender that maybe they need if anyone's out of form.
It looks to be what he's trying at the moment anyway, because Cathal Mannion can shoot and he will shoot from anywhere, but he's well able to score when he finds his range. So maybe he offers something different from midfield, but very much from an attacking perspective, obviously.
Yeah,
that's a complete contrast to what Johnny Cohen offers, because he pops up for a couple of scores and a couple of important scores, but he obviously would be more known for his defensive duties. So it's playing around with the team. Galway have lots of options. The one thing to have the huge, strong, physically strong men. Like they're all 6 foot at least, and they're all similar enough. Like you look at Niall Burke and Conor Cooney, even Joe Canning. Colm Mannion, these guys are all similar enough in stature. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't even mention Joseph Cooney then as well. Like,
Jesus,
so like these boys are serious hurlers. So, and then you've Johnny Glynn, an absolute monster. Then, like, imagine that we're actually, we're talking about all 6 footers there, and then we have an absolute monster that they're able to go completely on top of.
What's your thoughts on Cathal Mannion? Because he's like what you said. You said Niall Burke can be inconsistent. Cathal Mannion infuriates me in that he's got so much ability and so much class, and then some days he could get 6 from play and I wouldn't take a bit out of him from the wings, wherever, and then the next day he'll go out and he'll be marked out of it. How does he get that out of his game? Or is that ever going to go out of his game?
Yeah, it's hard to see. Like he looks like he's in third gear all the time.
Yeah.
Just real nonchalant going around the field, and he can spin on a sixpence and fire it over the bar. Left or right, it doesn't matter. Yes, probably you'd love to, from a manager's perspective, you're probably trying to light a fire in them and try but maybe in midfield he'll be popping off the shoulder, and that kind of running through the centre might suit him that little bit more, rather than with his back to goal a lot. So it depends. Sometimes it can really free up hurlers.
Yeah, no, exactly. So Owen Cody scored 1-4 for Ballyhale Shamrock. So, like, I mean, another Cody. I don't know, do you know much about Owen?
Well, like, what a story this guy has. I'm so impressed with him at the weekend. Seemed to have so much space all the time. Almost every point he got, you know, his movement obviously was exceptional. But his story is great. Like, he's still in St. Kieran's at the moment. He came on in the colleges All-Ireland last year and was actually taken off again. So to see his rise is phenomenal. And, you know, last time he played in Hurling, here he was, okay, real disappointing day. And then a year later, he's arguably man of the match in less than a year, actually, arguably man of the match in the senior club All-Ireland semi-final, and hitting 1-4 on a dirty wet evening. Like, that's some fairy tale story. And I was impressed with him in the Leinster final when I saw him as well. You know, he's quite good now in fairness to him, and he's elusive. He's able to get around the place. You might think you have him, but as you can see from his point scoring at the weekend in particular, he's a decent hurler.
He is, yeah. And I thought there was a lovely bit of skill when he got in on the goal that time, because he wanted to make sure of it, and instead of just dropping it out of his hand and scoring from maybe a bit outside 14, he dropped it back on his hurl, came right in onto the 6-yard box, and then just, you know, did it without catching it. I thought that showed a lot of composure for a fella his age to drop it back on the hurl that second time, knowing he couldn't catch it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd say, look, obviously I can't speak for him, but I'd say he probably thought he was going to be hooked, so
right.
he put it back on the hurl, so you can kind of cause someone to dive in. You only get one opportunity at that hook, so I'd say that's what he maybe thought himself. And that was clever play, obviously, and made absolute sure of it. But he completely burnt Hutchinson at that stage, so he probably had loads of time.
He didn't know, yeah.
And then he showed a little bit of greenness or greediness at the very last score he got. Like, he probably should have thrown it inside, threw a dummy hand pass, and went through himself and had another goal at his mercy.
Yeah.
But fired it over the bar. But if the game was on the melting pot and he didn't throw that one inside, I'd say Shefflin would have had another word with him. So you don't want to knock too much out of him. There's that fine line between you want that little bit of greediness in a forward, but at the same time you need to know when it really is appropriate to throw it off.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a pick on him, is there? There's one thing I noticed. He's got little arms on him there. Say he hasn't done a bench press in his whole life. This is just pure ability and skill. Again, what club hurling for me really comes down to. You know what I mean? It didn't look like, maybe I'm doing him a disservice here, but like, he's still only young, so he shouldn't be focusing on weights anyways. But he's a tiny little slip of a fella.
Yeah, but look, I think you're right when that's club hurling. That's the essence of it, and I think that's what's great about it. You don't have to have a big, you know, chest and arms and shoulders to be able to mix it, and you know, you can dot guys around the field to get in and do that sort of work. But obviously you've got to be able to hurl first and foremost. But, you know, Ballyhale, you know, they play a lot of lovely style hurling. They're trying to play a low ball in front wherever possible. There's obviously times it'll have to go route one, and they have Colm Fennelly to do that. But Owen Cody's well able to win high ball as well. So, you know, they're really good, and they've a lot of young players. But they'll be coming up probably against a little bit more experienced team around the field in St. Thomas's.
Yeah, now that you mentioned St. Thomas's, in Burke, we talked with David there. He's the youngest of them, and he got 3 from play. So I think he was playing maybe in the full forward line, or it could have been centre half forward. It was 3 from play anyways. And like I was saying with David, there's 5 brothers on that team. There was 6 in 2013. They've lost the one, Sean, and there's 5 brothers still on it. So like, I mean, Aine is on the Galway panel as well. So, you know, like, we talked about that Galway forward line and find it really difficult to break in. Someone who's as good as him, you know, hasn't really been seen at intercounty level as much.
No, it's amazing because, again, another guy with a great underage talent or you know, track record, minor and under 21, and obviously with St. Thomas as well. He can play anywhere. He can play the half-back line, midfield, and obviously he's doing a job up centre forward predominantly for St. Thomas's. And you know, the game on Saturday was real tight, and obviously Cushendall played a sweeper, so scoring 3 points in that type of game is no mean feat. So this guy is well able to hurl, and you know, again, that's more hurlers we're talking about in Galway. Still has no consistency at senior level, But again, we've talked about it already. The amount of hurlers that they have. David obviously is the better known brother. He's a fantastic talent. I won a Fitzgibbon Cup final with David Burke, and himself and Pat Cronin were middle of the field that day in Fitzgibbon night. And I thought Pat Cronin was after getting man of the match. I turned around and said to him, Pat, he was definitely man of the match, 4 points in play. Next minute they announced the man of the match. David Burke, man of the match, 5 points in play. I was like, oh my God. Like, shows how much I was paying attention. So that was some midfield to have. But, like David Burke, every day he goes out there, he's so consistent, and he's being one of Galway's male hurlers. But Éanna, touching on that, he's just probably not as consistent as David, but he's another talent, and you'd love to see him now get a little bit of game time there with Galway. Maybe he could offer something else in there as well, because he offers an alternative. Because as we always talk about Galway, they're all big men we're talking about. Maybe just an alternative style player, because he's not small, but he's not exactly he's not touching on 6 foot either. So maybe he'll offer something different.
Yeah, well, Conor Whelan used to be small until they bulked him up, and now he's like a little Hulk going around the place. So it's this Polish strength and conditioning fella. Even if you're small, he's making you big, and that's the way it's working. Incredible. Conor Whelan, from when he broke on as the number 10, the wing forward, he was kind of a slim enough fella, and how stocky he's after getting, isn't he? He's a real, like, his strength is...
Yeah, he's an animal.
He was always wiry, but now he's wiry and strong.
Yeah, and he's unbelievable, whether it's in the air or in that kind of bent over position, trying to win the hard, dirty ball, and he's phenomenal. He's a real weird way of striking the ball, because he's even off his favoured right side, he strikes underneath the ball, hits it very high when he's going for scoring. The amount of times we've seen Hawkeye every time he shoots, because he hits it so high, but he's so accurate, and he's not afraid to shoot from anywhere. Conor Whelan's a serious talent. Yeah,
serious talent. Right, performance of the weekend. I'm not going to keep you any longer. We'll give it to Owen Cody. 1-4 at his age in an Ireland semi-final. He'll never forget that day, and again the bit of composure that you don't lick that up off the ground to be able to, even when you think you might be hooked, a lot of players will go, Jesus, here's the goals, bang, panic stations, shot, hook, ball cleared out. Do you know what I mean? He had that composure to all this was going on, being processed in his head in a split second. So Owen Cody is performance of the weekend, and we'll let you go there, Brian. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Wally.
We'll be back on Thursday as usual with a preview show. Talk to you then. Good luck.